and warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for taking your time to come to this afternoon to this in-house mission. Today is our 4th lesson. So how has the 3 lessons been going? Okay? Hwa Chuan is a real educator, so you all should not have problem understanding him. So I think we will start with a prayer first. Shall we bow our heart? Hey. Heavenly Lord Father, we want to thank you for bringing us here together to learn and be involved in our church ministry. May the Holy Spirit speak to each one of us through your words, and may the Lord stir our hearts to reverence on, to be aligned to your kingdom mission. Teach us and spur us as a church to want to do better to glorify you. Lord, we sincerely pray through Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Okay, so now we shall, because there's some miscommunication, so our speaker is a little bit late, so we will just go ahead first, huh? Okay, this is to review our last lesson. So if you want, social distancing is off now. You can actually gather in 2 or 3 just at your seat to share what you have learned. Just 2-3 minutes. Okay, guys, you got 1 more minute to discuss. Okay, guys, your 1 minute is up. Let's go back to our seat. And I hope you have a fruitful discussion to reinforce the idea of what mission is all about. Okay, in 2002, a world reducing missionary attrition project was done, and the report, among all other things, show us a list of reasons why missionaries leave the mission field. So, if you take a look at all the reasons here, do you realize that money is not one of them? Finance is not one of them. So it's not about money. Although I would say that money, of course, is indirectly a contribution, but it's not a big contribution. So let's say unrealistic expectation. That is the management of expectation of the missionary. So we need to manage the expectation. Poor leadership, conflicts in strategy, disagreement with agency, all these can be avoided if you got good communication and got good partnership. Okay, personal, immature spiritual life, lack of pastoral care. This one we implore our pastors to show more care. So most of the time, I think a church tends to leave it to the mission committee. Because they form a committee, they think everything is done already. So they continue what they do, but they forgot that this mission, if you have learned from the 3 lessons, mission is part of our life. It's part of our Christian life. So we need this pastoral care. Yeah? So if you look at all these reasons for living, we should be able to detect that 50 to 70% of these reasons are preventable if we show more care and concern for missionaries. So how do you prevent it? Do prevention, don't do cure. So when there are telltale signs of fatigue, then you can make a difference. So timing is very crucial here. But how would you know that your missionary is fatigued? How do you know that your missionary is losing heart? If you never have that care and support link, communications, you will never know. And hence, you can never prevent because you don't know. So, what does it tell you? Communications is very important. Communication of care is very important. Okay, so this is where technology buffer me. So you are supposed to scan the QR code.
Today is not peddler, it's anti-meter. So besides monetary support, of course prayer support as well, how else can we show care to our missionaries? Each person has 3 responses. That can be a phrase, a short phrase, yeah. There's a letter count, I think. So try to hear a short phrase or what? Everybody inside ready? Yes, I will show you all what we have to do.
So we will see your answers.
No worries, our name is not captured.
But a few here only, right? So we can detect.
No, the name is not captured. And the thing about this is, if the thing appears bigger, means more people key in their responses.
Okay, send well wishes. News from visit, care for their family. for frontier needs, care for family members, visitation of the help with need, regular communication, care on well-being, news from back home. Okay. Treat them to a feast. So these are your answers. Are we done? I'll take your answer back to the committee for feedback. It's still moving. The word communications appear, the word family appear very often. Hwa Chuan, can I presume this is the app? One more.
Who is looking?
Visitation and shower. Shower concerns.
Full medical checkup.
Huh?
Full medical checkup when they come back.
Okay. Full medical checkup.
Provide lodging in Singapore when they come back.
Okay. So these are your feedback, and we will bring this back to the comment. Okay. Now we will go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, missionary care is an ongoing preparation, equipping, and empowering of missionaries for effective and sustainable life. So, when you say ongoing, it means a continuous process. So your continuous process start when you train a missionary all the way to the field, all the way, if this person stays 10 years at the field, your support is continuous. The preparation and equipping is you are always upgrading the missionary, so that the missionary don't fall back to time. So that the years, 10 years don't stop. The year he stays there and then he stops. So he must be always going for upgrading courses, knowing the latest technology, the latest way of managing people. And you need to empower missionaries. What does empower means? You give the person the authority. You give the person the legal rights to make decisions. You can't say everything you need to go back to the Missions Comm. Everything you need to go back to the mission agency. Then that person is handicapped. So you also need to recognize that he is a missionary. If you don't recognize him as a missionary, you will never empower him. You never give him the authority. So you need to do that for an effective and sustainable life, ministry and work. The last part of it will never work if the first part of it you don't give them. Okay? So, now, who is responsible? Who is responsible to giving this? Is it the Missions Comm? Is it the church? Is it the mission agency? Is it the receiving church? Or is it the mission field? So at this time, I'd like to hand over the time to Reverend Ong, Barnabas Ong. So first, let me introduce him. Today he's a bit late. He do a marathon running to the church. So he is the Executive Director of Singapore Chinese Christian Mission, and he's also a Deputy Chairman of the Singapore Chinese Joint Mission, short SCJM. So we want to thank him for accepting our invitation and taking time to come and share with us his experience. CCM is our mission agency partner for many years. So TRBC has partnered CCM for quite some time, and he will show us today how this partnership can help our church deliver a better mission care and selection, because the church is not all, so we need our partners. So now we hand the time to Reverend.
Good afternoon. Okay. Should I switch to channel 8 or channel 5? Channel 5. Okay, my sincere apology because I mistook the starting time as 2:30. So initially I thought I was early for this meeting, but at the end I ended up late. So my sincere apology. And I bring greetings from CCM, Chinese Christian Mission, and I give thanks for TRBC and the Missions Comm, the leadership, and also church members who are very actively supporting the ministry in northern Thailand, care for our missionary, and also financially, not only actively contributing to the ministry in northern Thailand, and also bringing short-term mission trips, in fact every year, to northern Thailand to support our missionaries. So I'm very glad and very thankful for all of you. And just now Roslyn has mentioned who is responsible for the care and concern for the missionaries. I believe all of us agree the sending church is the primary partners in these global missions. And also, not to say about a sending agency. Besides CCM, which agency you are familiar with? Can you name one or two? Mission agency. Just now Rosalie said, your partners is CCM, that is we. And are there other mission agencies you are familiar of? SIM. What does SIM stand for? Sending? Okay. Serving in ministries, right? Missions, sending. 国际事工差会，国际事工差会。I mean, initially was Southern Sudan Interior Mission. Okay, besides that, OMF? Yeah. CNEC. Okay, CNEC. Okay, so we have the receiving church in the field. And also the leadership, whether leadership in our local church or leadership in the field, and definitely family members are the immediate one giving care and support to the missionaries. Okay, so I believe you have heard about such a saying, church exists for mission, just as fire exists for burning. 所以教会的存在是为了宣教，正如火的存在就是为了燃烧，发出光和热。And so the church is the body, the important part involving in the mission. But we can see that as the church is the main character, the mission agencies is the servant serving the church and serving the missionaries. The church is the body of the missions agency, while the mission agency is the hand and feet of the church. So we don't exist alone. We exist to support the church, to serve together with the church, to give care and concern to the missionaries. And I hope this picture will stay with us. And always remember, we are not here to compete with the church, but completing each other. We are not here to so-called give a lot of snatching resources from the church, human resource, financial resource, or whatever. We are not. We are giving our support to the church and helping the church to expand the missions locally and also overseas. And so in simple terms, why we need the missions agency? What are the roles of the missions agency? I think first of all, we agree we are here to provide member care to missionaries who are in the field, can be in Northern Thailand, in Myanmar, or Indonesia, Southeast Asia. And so because of the geographical distance and also the cultural distance, we need the bridge to bridge the gap. And so we are bridging the gap between the church and the missionaries and also the mission field. We help to manage and solicit funds for the missionary in order to propagate the gospel in the field. And we help to plan and implement missions ministries. Yeah, so we are very close to the church and also close to the missionaries, and we want to help the ministry of the missionaries to be very fruitful and multiplying. And so, to achieve that, we need to share and reinforce the missional vision to various churches in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia. We want more churches to get involved. And we also need to promote missions education, and so as to mobilize more church members, more church leaders to be involved in this overseas mission. So in short, care, connect, consolidate, carry out the plans, execute the plans, cast vision, and last but not least, communicate. It's very important because we must always take initiative to communicate with the church, communicate with the missionary in the field. And I think the best time is when the missionary return to the church or return to the sending base. Those are the times we want to see more communications between the church and the missionaries. For the past 2 years, we are having very difficult times because missionaries are not able to stay in the mission fields. But missionaries is still using the technology like Zoom, like YouTube, and keeping very close communication with the churches in the field, the leaders in the field. And so continuing to support them and care for them, and also to promote the ministries in the field. And we are very thankful because we are even able to do a cyber missions with the help of the local church, TRBC, continue to send out so-called mission teams to serve during the Christmas time. And so we cannot exist alone. I believe we have heard of the term 拆船铁三角, okay? Church, missionary, and missions agency. Although now some of the mission experts admitted that actually we should add in another partners, the theological seminary or the mission training center. And these three or these four work closely together. As the Bible has taught us, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. The cord of three strands is not quickly broken. And so missionary cannot work alone. The church cannot work alone. The missions agency cannot work alone. But three of us join together, we can become stronger, and we can multiply our ministry together. So, yeah, we can see that missions agencies is here to supplement the church, supplement the missionaries. And when we turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 24 to 28. If you have the Bible, can you please turn with me? to this passage. Okay, can someone read out this passage for us? Chapter 11, 24 to 28. Anyone?
5 times I received at the hands of the Jews the 40 lashes against one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. The night and the day I was adrift at sea. On frequent journeys. In danger from rivers, danger from robbers, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure, and apart from other things, there is daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches.
Thank you very much. And so we can see here in this very short passage, Paul in fact catalogs the sufferings and his pains. What have you noticed about his suffering or his pains? Physically, abuse, and emotionally, he is always in need for support, for care. He was in anxiety, in hunger, in danger, and always looking of all means to continue to propagate the gospel, despite many different difficulties and challenges. Yeah. So from this passage, we can see why God's servant or missionary is in demand for care and support. Yeah, because we can see that when Paul wrote about this 2 Corinthians, he was in Ephesians. And we know that after that, he was brought to the heart of Roman. And there he was jailed in 2-year house arrest. And in fact, in the sea, he encountered shipwreck and even come to a point to die in the sea. And so we can see that a missionary like Paul, he was constantly in stress, constantly facing a lot of challenges and difficulties. And so Paul was someone who reminded us missionary cannot work alone. Even they are very talented, they have a lot of spiritual gifts, but they are like you and me. They are not superheroes. They have flesh, they have emotional needs, spiritual needs, they have relational needs, and also definitely physical needs. And so from this short passage, let us always be reminded not to leave the missionary alone in the field. I remember one Chinese New Year, our missionary, she was in Yunnan, in the capital of Yunnan. And that year, he was not able to return to Singapore to enjoy the reunion. And so she continued to be to stay put in the field. And in fact, after a month, we received her newsletter. She shared with us during that period, many of her friends are not in the city. They went back to their hometown. And so happened she fell sick. She was not able to go to the clinic. In fact, most of the clinics are closed. And she was not able to go to cook herself because she was sick. She was not able to buy even medicine at that time. And so she said she was very homesick. She was thinking about the reunion in Singapore, her family members. And she was very, very depressed at that time. And so when we received the newsletter, first come to our mind is, oh, she's not a new missionary, she's an experienced missionary. And we wonder why she has such kind of a very acute kind of expression and reactions. But to think deeper, we realize no matter how long the missionaries stay in the field, no matter how experienced they were, they are like you and me. They are not superheroes. So we must not think too highly of a missionary. Always put ourselves in their shoes. Always ask ourselves, if I were in their shoes, will that happen to me? And if the answer is affirmative, no, when everybody is back in Singapore to enjoy the New Year, and that missionary has to stay put in the field, and we all believe and realize that we ought to be very actively showing our care and concern, not only to bring greetings to them, but also to come to them, especially when they are sick, they are down, and we are there to give our support, and also to perhaps we are not able to fly to Yunnan at that time, but at least we can alert the local church. We can alert the field director. We can alert those friends who are close to her to give a lending hand to the sick missionary. And so we must always be ready. We must always be prepared, and we must always take initiative, not only to pray for missionary, but always look for the possibilities to go near to them and give our immediate support. And so with that, I hope we can see mission agencies have to work closely with the church and work closely with the missionary in the field. We are agencies, we are a Christian organization, and we are part of the body, and we need definitely the church continue to give us support and helping us to grow healthily, and helping us to achieve our objective, and that is to continuing to give support, pastoral leadership to the missionaries in the field. Okay, and with that, I'll pass the baton to Rosalind. Yeah, different stages to care for the missionaries. Thank you.
Okay.
Can ask questions now, just since it's on missionary
Oh,
care.
okay. Can,
So
why not?
one thing that came to mind is that a suggestion how frequently a missionary should take a holiday or a break? Is there some suggestion or guideline that we should consider?
Thank you for this question. In fact, missionaries are like a full-time pastor, so they still continue. They continue to enjoy the so-called full pastor package. For example, they enjoy the holidays, the public holidays, and they have their annual leave to enjoy. They can apply whenever needed to take a rest. And in fact, the term of missionary is 3 years. 3 years. So when they return to the local, we'll actually advise them to take a break. For example, to go for a short retreat, locally or overseas. It depends on the budget. Yeah. So when they come back to the field, we'll do a debrief to understand about what they have done in the field, what is their immediate concern, and we'll keep in close contact with the missionaries. And we also keep contact with the family members in Singapore. So when the parents or the immediate family members are sick, we will actually show our care concern to the family members. Yeah. So we'll do a review, these are periodical review, and we'll advise like coming October, we are having a missionary retreat. Okay, these are annual affair, and so those are the times when missionaries can come together, not only to be revitalized, to recharge, but they can have time to go away from their ministries and their mission field, and they have time to have fellowship with other missionaries, fellowship with the mission agency, and those are the times that we have the closer prayer together. Yeah. So even though this year we are not able to go to a retreat center, but we are doing it online. But we encourage the missionary to find a place and a time where they will not be interrupted. They can have 3 days of solitude with a few missionaries in Singapore. Yeah, and they will go online together, and they have fellowship with other missionaries in other parts of the world. And I hope that answers your question.
During these retreats, they actually have to be on leave from
No.
So
That's their entitlement. Yeah.
This was CCF.
Thank you.
Okay, so now with that we go on. Oh, what did I do? I off it? Oh, all right. Okay, recruitment. So who do you think recruits the missionary? The mission agent or the church? Actually, it's the church. The church is a seedling nursery. So it nurtures servants and warriors for God's kingdom. That's why you have your Sunday school, you have your fellowship, you have your worship. And God is the chief harvester. And the church works as the Lord's agent. So the church having the benefit of knowing its members well through the extended time. Like I've seen Daniel since he's a baby. So do I know him well? Is he a potential? Yes. So who knows better? Us, right? The church, right? So the church is the most suitable. It's most suitable to select the candidates for the mission field. So is screening important? Sometimes the church think, wow, for 5 years no one comes. No one wants to volunteer to be a missionary. If I have one, just take lah. Is that the way? Actually, it's not. So screening is very essential and must be very thorough, because not everyone who is willing and available is suitable. So the church has to discern from God and scrutinize the candidate's spiritual, physical and mental health, as well as his family relationship, and if he's married, the spouse reaction to being a missionary. And if we screen that well, then we will avoid failure. Because when we fail, imagine what the missionary goes through. It can be quite traumatizing. So the church, so this is screening and internship. The church can also look around and see and develop the gift set of a member. Like, you know the business outside the corporate world, in the 2000 years, they are already having such things, staff development program. They're already getting university students to do internship in the bank, in the corporate world, or in the education institution. But how come the church never? Why? We don't need. Does that mean we don't need? Or we don't have the resources? Or we don't have people looking into it to do it? So the church should be able to provide internship for those people and our students, our young generation, to work in the office for 6 months when they are having their university break or your JC, between JC to youth. You should be able to get them an internship in the church and understand what the church does. So the other one is ministry training. We have many ministries, like the Missions Comm. We got Daniel to join us, one of our youngsters. But shouldn't we have done that long ago? We have so many youngsters who come and go, but we never thought about doing that. So when we also need to prepare them, like sending them for leadership training, and then giving them a role to play in your ministry. And don't forget, you need to give them a mentor to hold hand with. If the person goes into a ministry, so lost, swimming around, but no one to hold hand with, then that person can be disillusioned. And the committee also can be disillusioned. Why this person not doing anything? But that is also, it's a two-way thing, right? So that's how the church should be active in doing all this. Okay, so once you identify your candidate, we can be interactive, you can ask questions. Maybe some of you are interested. Okay, so once candidates are identified, you need to be intentional in your training. The church will then help them enroll in the seminary school, which school, and who pays, and then the theology seminary. And you also need to care how they are doing in the school. You need to find out intermittently how they are doing as well. And then you need to differentiate the training. Some missionaries go overseas to plant church. Some missionaries go overseas to set up a school, an educator, or a professional healthcare set up a clinic. And from there, they can spread the gospel. So which way it is, then you have to train specifically. And after that, you need to send them out in the field. So that's where our mission agency comes in very handy for us. So which mission field? The mission agency has many fields in different countries. So our missionary, the candidate has a chance, has a choice. If you think Thailand is too backward, if you think Finland is better, so because the mission agency has many countries. The church don't have, you don't have a TRBC in Thailand. You don't have a TRBC in Vietnam. So you can't do that. So that's when the mission agency comes in handy. OMF has a lot of branches, CNEC too, and CRU too. So they can come in very handy to help us. Where we lack, where the church lack, this mission agency can make up for it. That's why the relationship is very important. So we send them out 6 months. Let them have a taste of what it is to be in the field. Does it suit you? Is it, is it comfortable? Or is it too much hardship? Or, what's the lifestyle like? You like the language there? You understand the language? And when you come back, you find out where you are like. Then you make up for it. You love Thailand. You love the language. Then you come back and you learn. So that when you go, you understand. And avoid all the frustration. So after the internship, you come back, you are full of Jesus. You want to go. But do the church think you're ready? Do the mission agency think you're ready? So an evaluation will make between the receiving church, the sending church, the mission agency, and the missionary himself. 3 might think okay, but the missionary say no, then it's a no. So it has to be an all-together decision to make it work. Okay, everybody say yes. Everybody agree. So here comes the deployment. So be before the deployment, a program, a detailed plan must be agreed upon between all the parties so that the missionary knows what to expect. So then, the church also needs to do one very important thing. We are doing God's work. So the church needs to make it very serious, solemnize it, lay hands on the missionary and send him out. It must be commissioned, because this part of it is very important. Our warrior is sent out for spiritual war, not physical war. So spiritual is just like a soldier sent out. The commander and everything must be prepared. Everything must be prepared. Have we prepared everything before we give him an air ticket? Hey, you fly, you go. And who is receiving him? So everything must be planned and agreed upon, and the missionary knows what to expect. So he arrives. Who received him? Or is he supposed to find his own way? So all this also needs to be planned. So upon arrival, the receiving church may be the one receiving, or the mission agency who has a branch there to receive him and to welcome the missionary. And the missionary will be introduced to his co-workers, his workplace, and his new home. This is the starting point of expectation management. So you need to expect, you need to manage the expectation. Because when the missionary is ready to start his work, if everything is within his expectation, he will embark on this mission with excitement instead of disappointment. So, especially if he goes with a family, is everything taken care of? Or is the house appropriate, near the mission field? Or, sorry, you live in a church, and just one room. You know, all these things has to be done. So, field orientation. A scheduled and approved program will then be carried out to help the missionary adapt to the mission field, with co-workers and mentors put in place to guide and help the missionary to settle down. Okay, the mission life. Learning the language and the culture can be frustrating, but that's where all this comes. His 6 months in the practical experience in the field should be, if it's done well, should enable him to settle in. So, if it's done well, the missionary will in no time make progress, and then he's able to serve with confidence and be fruitful. Then he will enjoy this field life and be part of the community of this country. Here, the communication is very important. Direct communication between the missionary and the sending church is a must, so that we know that the missionary is working within the approved plan, that everything is as planned. The receiving church, mission agency, and sending church must also communicate to ensure the well-being of this missionary. Okay, you are there 5 years, and then you decided, I return home. Okay, somebody is coming home. Do the church know? Do the church know the missionary is coming home? If you are in constant communication, you will know. It's time he comes home for his sabbatical leave. It's time he comes home for his home leave. Not every missionary, when after overseas 5 years, 10 years, is very comfortable coming home. Not no. They come home and everything is different. So when they come home, right, are they welcome? Do they have a place to stay? Do they have any more family member left here? Is the church, maybe the pastor even changed. The committee member also changed. Then he come home to where? To what? So if the communication is continuous, then the change of pastor will also take over, right? The change of committee will also take over. All these are already in concern. But if everything, you never communicate, this person come home to what? To where? So he will be disappointed. So this coming home is important for them. Re-entry. So when the missionary comes back, and then after a year, sabbatically, or 3 months, he goes back, everything is smooth, because everything is there already for him. But if his re-entry is to a new field, then your deployment, the whole process repeat itself. You have to do the whole thing all over again. If this person come back retired, he come back after 25 years, he come back to Singapore. And he come back for good. If he is a senior, he went at maybe 45. 25 years, how old is he? Your math? 70. So do we have an insurance policy board? Do he have a place to stay? He will lose his identity here. Who is he in Singapore? And who is related to him? And how does the church relate to him? If he is a vocational missionary, that means he come back, he still can go into a school, be a teacher, healthcare, still can be a nurse. But if he is a church planter, do the church has a place for him? Is there a role for him? Is there anything prepared for him? This is something I also don't have an answer. So we need to look at that is why the church has to be ongoing process to be able to provide. If they want to send missionary, if they want more missionaries, then you need to do all this. Should I hand the time over back to Reverend? Because this is yours. Oh, you didn't know?
He knows.
Okay. So so this is one of the main thing mission agencies of the church, Missions Comm, can help to support the missionary. Okay, human resource and also the admin, helping them not only to get their payroll in time, but also to keep them informed about the development in the local church, so that they won't lose touch with the local church. I remember when our missionaries is in the Middle East, that time there's no digital news at that time. Okay, so what we did is we collected the Straits Times, collected for 2 weeks. Then we actually mailed it to the Middle East, so that the mission, although it's late by 2 weeks, but at least they are familiarized with the local news and developments in Singapore. Yeah, so I think the administrative support is very important in this matter. And the missionary don't stay in the high ground all the time. They are human. And so there are times when they are down, they are emotional, and they are facing a crossroads in their ministry, and where they need someone to talk to. So I believe the church pastoral, the Missions Comm, and also the mission agencies are there to listen to them, to pray together with them, to assure them, and to help them to find a spiritual direction. Yeah, even though we don't provide answers all the time, or right to say we don't give them so-called answers to the matters they are troubling them, but we want to assure them we're always there to help them. There are sometimes when they are confused whether they should continue to stay in the field, they should continue to stay put to develop that particular ministry, or they should move on to another parts of the country where they can do a new church planting movement. And so we need to be on the ground to visit them, and even to go together with them to visit the so-called the land where gospel is needed. And so we go there for a prayer walk. We pray together with them, and we do planning with the missionary in the ground. I believe counseling not only to adopt this assertive listening, but if we can go to the ground and visit them, not only online, where most of the time we are doing this, but if we can go to the mission field to be with them, to stay with them for a few days to understand the scenario they are in, and I believe that can shorten the distance between the counselors, the pastoral counselors, and the missionary, the leaders and the missionary. And so I think it helps to identify the problems and to give them a better direction. Career guidance and interviews. There are times when missionary, we have a missionary in the field for more than 10 years, and age is catching up, and the couples wanted to go on a sabbatical to pursue a member care course in the university, and so they come to the leaders for guidance, because they feel that if they were to continue to wait, then they're getting older, and they'll foresee more difficulties in academic kind of study. Yeah, and so at the end they wind up the company in the field, and they apply for the course in USA, and that was during the COVID year 2020. Yeah. So by God's grace, they are able to obtain the visa. They are able to apply to the university, and they are able to buy a ticket in July, and they flew to USA in August. Yeah. So on and off, missionaries need affirmation. They want to know about God's guidance in their life, whether to continue to stay in that field or in that ministry, or there's a chance for them to receive education, ongoing education in a seminary or in a university. And so we need to check with our policies. We need to check about the availability, whether any other missionaries can so-called stand in for them while they are away, half a year or a year, then the ministry will not be affected. Yeah, so this is about career guidance. Pre-field preparation, field support and closure. Yeah, I mentioned about the missionary who wind up the ministry in the field, and they are able to not only to have a good closure with the government, because they actually apply to set up the company in the field. They have a good closure, they keep a good account, financial account, and they are able to so-called rent that center to another team in the field from other mission agencies. And so in a way that ministry continues, but was actually handed over to another team or another mission agencies. Yeah. So we can see that on and off, we need to show our interest in the missionary. Yeah. So before pre-field, I think those are the times when they are very excited and they are overwhelming. They want to go to the field as soon as possible. Okay, but we really need to give them the proper guidance, especially a new missionary. Yeah, so we need to have more time with them to set up the communication, to set up the admin support, to set up the spiritual support. Yeah, and that was before setting out to the field. And when they are in the field, I think that support needs to be continued. I believe now we have a lot of new technology to help us to maintain a close support and contact with the missionary. Yeah. So before that we don't have Zoom, but we have Skype, and so we have weekly we'll see missionary together. We read the Bible. We have a quiet time together, and we pray together, and we show interest in their local, the life in the mission field. What are their needs, and we will pray together and give them our support. Yeah, family services. Not only the missionaries are in the field, they have their family members staying put in the so-called sending country. Yeah, so we need to continue to keep in contact with the family members in Singapore, so to say. And so this is one aspect. Church partnership. Yeah, so we need to remind missionary not only to write their newsletter punctually, and we so-called ensure that the link between the missionary, the church missionary, and family in Singapore will maintain. So I think in this area we can give a lot of administrative support. Okay, yeah, regular reviews and updates. So we have this crisis checklist. We need the missionary to update in terms of when there is crisis, who are the family members in Singapore to contact, who is a church pastor to contact. Yeah, so we maintain an updated crisis list. In terms of crisis, what are the actions to be followed? How are they going to evacuate from the field? Yeah, so these need to be constantly updated and affirmed with the missionary. Professional services and screening and tests, like when they come back, they will do annual body checkup, a full body checkup. When they set up like this time, with their Reverend Low and Mrs. Low setting off to the field in June, they need to do a very complete checkup requested by the Thai government, the tourist board. Yeah, and so those are the times when they will be more informed of their body health status. Yeah. So next week I'm meeting up with them because they are going back and they are facing some difficulties because they have their visa when they expired, and now they are not able to apply that visa in Singapore. And so they are going back with a tourist visa, but later they are applying for a visa in Thailand. Yeah. So in a way, we need to be tied up with the missionary, the Missions Comm or the mission agencies. We need to be keep very close contact with them. Yeah. So missionaries are launching into a new ministry. We are also meeting up to discuss about cooperation between the missionaries and other mission agencies in terms of agriculture kind of ministry. Yeah. helping the church to launch into a new ministry. And so well, we need to not only give support but give affirmation to the missionary in different stages of their ministry. Okay, this one, continue, are you? Okay, training, cross-cultural training. There are some centers in Thailand or in this Macau where missionaries can go for cross-cultural training half a year. In fact, the shorter one is 3 months. And this applies to a new missionary before they set off to the mission field. In fact, CCM is also setting up a mission training center in JB. Because due to the COVID, the project was delayed, but now hopefully we can get started the second half of this year. And so we have the pre-mission training program for the missionary, where missionary will go there for 3 months program and to get ready then for the cross-cultural ministry. And also we have also a program for the young people, the university graduates, before they enter the work field, the workplace, they can come for a half a year program. Okay, 3 months in-house training, and 3 months we will send to the mission field to work with the missionary. And in the process, they will identify their spiritual gift and to discern about God's guidance in their life. Even they may not become a missionary at the end, but they'll become a better leaders in the church. And so cross-cultural exposure is very important. Okay, ministry. I believe if the church provide internship for the so-called missionary candidate, the church will also provide training opportunities for in terms of the ministry. Church planting, yeah. So it all depends what the missionary is going to do in the field, whether it's a medical kind of ministry or planting a church, or no, they are there to set up a counseling center. They are there to set up a family service center to provide services to the locals. Yeah. So, but in the long run, we want to see missionaries also involved in personal testimonies, sharing the gospel to the clients or to the people they meet in the field, and from that to grow into a cell group, and hopefully they have other teams to support them, yeah, to help these new believers to grow. So this is about a long-term plan in the field. Vocational, yeah. Some of the missionaries, they are medical missionaries, so they'll have to come back to Singapore to return to the hospital or to the universities for upgrading to maintain their license. Yeah, so this is about vocational. Okay, Ross.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. I see that time is running out, so is all this familiar to you? I don't need to go through.
So emotional, mental, physical, social, spiritual. So social is about entrenchment. Like I say, you leave the country for 10 years, you come back, you may be entrenched by the culture. You need to readjust yourself back to the bustling, fast track Singapore, from a slow track Chiang Mai. Okay, these are the care that is needed for our missionary, the pastoral care. It doesn't mean that, like I say, a church can choose a mission comm, but that doesn't make them no more responsibility. The church comm don't take over. The church comm actually work on behalf. It's not like take over from the church. So the pastor still needs to visit the missionary, pick up the phone, listen to the voice. Mutual care, peer care is us. We ordinary church members, your cell group, and your friends, your sister in Christ, the community, missionary, church, and activation. And of course the family. The family needs to support. Okay, this is, we want to go through fast. You know, this is TRBC mission policy. And this is what we do to care for and support for our missionary. Moral support, prayer support, financial support. After listening so much, please go through this. Do you think we care enough? Do you think our caring, our support is holistic? And for this, we need some feedback so that we can continue to do better. So, pastoral care, we have friendship and encouragement, communication through email. Now, like we say, technology, media is so up to date and so easy. Visitation, we send our short-term trips to visit. Even pastor can make a trip to visit the missionary. And all this, the care for, and if this person goes alone, leaving, like Pastor Reverend Go, he goes alone, leaving his son, so who cares for the son? Of course the family is the first caring, but what do the church do? Do the church care? Or is Pastor Go's responsibility? So prayer support. We believe in prayer. Like I say, it's a spiritual warfare. It's not just going there as a missionary. So we are doing this prayer now. We have it published in bulletins, prayer meeting. We have cell group to adopt. We have each missionary sending us their newsletter, update us, and then we can pray for them. And we want to get the church involved. I think we are going on to having pulpits. We hope that during Sunday worship, our pastor will bring up a missionary and the whole church can spend 5 minutes praying or something like that. We are going on towards that, but not implemented yet. Financial support. 有钱就能够解决的问题不是问题。If money can solve, it is not a problem. Is that so? After studying all this, learning all this, we know that money is not everything as well. So you need to put in time, effort, and concern. But of course, 没有钱也万万不行啊。So monetary support should be timely and consistent. You don't, because your computer is down, you can't do the transfer. The person is waiting to buy food there. Okay? So we have to be consistent and timely. So in the missionary field, and all about money matters need to be discussed and informed. Don't just, if you stop receiving money, don't just keep quiet. If you receive too much, also don't keep quiet. There could be some mistake or other. So it will come back and find you. So I have to be very transparent. But if you have urgent need, we can always seek the BOD approval, even though it's not in the budget. So this is what is in our policy. If you didn't read, it's time I need to do that. Okay, you can pause and reflect. Is our care mission good enough? Is our policy holistic enough? Did we even do what our policy state? If don't have, please point out. Be more transparent so that the Missions Comm can be more alert. Be more alert. Reverend Go, you want to speak? Reverend Go is not speaking. But maybe you can find us. Okay, let's go. So, if you are being approached, the leader saw you, picked you, and you have God's calling, what do we do? So how do you do? What do you do? This is what we do. Okay? There is an admin subcommittee comprising the chairman of TRBC, the pastor, and the chairman of the Missions Comm, who have the responsibility for assessment. So here is where the screening is done. So if you have the calling, if they call you, or you call, you have a calling from God, you can approach this subcommittee. And they will assist you in step by step to becoming a missionary. So if you worry about your money, your fee, the academic and school fees, depending on part-time and full-time, we have scholarship from the church. And then when we send you out to the mission field for internship, the Missions Comm will take care of the funds, the cost. And after that, you are really sure you want to go, we will pick a mission agency for you. And then with the mission agency and the church and yourself, we will work out your training, your plan, everything. And we will evaluate you as well. This is what we do. If we do not enough, please tell us. We can always, the policy is not there it's not hard and stone, because we can amend it every 2 years. We put there already. But if you all keep quiet, then we can't amend it. No cost of amendment. So you must talk about it. This is
Okay, I'll just very briefly explain about the process. Any interested applicant, they can write in or give us a call, and from that we'll actually require them to fill in a preliminary application form, and they will actually answer this doctrinal questionnaire. So we want to know more about the applicant before we want to so-called continue to process their application. And so we will have a very informal kind of meeting up with them, face-to-face, to know more about this applicant. And from that, if we think they are suitable, and they can also have time to ask any questions about the missions agencies, the policy. Then from that, we will give them a formal application form, and also to inform them about the statements of faith of the mission agency. And after receiving their formal application, then we will connect to their church pastors and church leaders, and to get a formal church recommendation from the pastors. Then from that onwards, we'll ask the applicants to invite 5 referees to fill in the evaluation form. So from that, we can get to understand more about the applicants. Okay. Then from that onwards, the applicant they'll become so-called a candidate, a missionary candidate. Then they'll go for physical tests, psychological tests, where they will so-called understand more about their physical health, the emotional, and the psychological health. And then from that onwards, we'll form up a committee to officially interview the applicant. Okay. Then definitely by that time we receive all the so-called church recommendation letter will confirm that this candidate is suitable. We'll discuss about the future ministry or the interested field they want to be involved. We'll have a lot of meetings with the church, with the missionary candidate himself. And if he passed the interview, then we'll talk more about the financial budget, the future plan of ministry. And it takes about half a year to about 9 months, this whole process, before there is a commissioning service for the missionary. But having said that, even before the selection process, when we meet up with any believers in the church, we also be alert and also looking out for the potential one. Actually, because we have our mission education seminars, we have camps, we have a weekend camp where the interested one will come, and missionaries will have the time to mentor them, to understand about their needs. And from that, actually, we are already in a process of selection, identifying the potential one. Even we'll pray with them, because from that onwards, they want to know about which mission agencies to go through. Then we encourage them to talk to their church pastors, to so-called disclose their intention about going into a full-time service or mission, missions ministry. And so we want the candidate to have a closer communication with church leaders before they actually write in to apply to the mission agencies. So this is a brief process. And this one actually tells us about how a missionary goes on this mission field. From starting from the church. Church is always an entry point. They become a believer in the church, baptized. They receive the discipleship training, and they attended these mission-related seminars. Then from there, they get so-called linked to the mission agencies, and that's how the mission agencies come into this picture. But we must not neglect this theological seminary or the cross-cultural training phase. And we can see the green line, which is the mission field. So the four so-called important elements in the growth of the missionary: the church, the mission agencies, the theological or the training centers, and then the mission fields. And from that, actually, they re-enter into the church, where they come back for home assignment, or they come back to take a break before they continue to discern about God's guidance in their life for the future development. And so all the four parts actually work closely together. Okay? Thank you very much. Leslie.
Okay, so if you are called, you must answer God. Do you know missionary is very blessed? They are the closest to God, because they experience life with God, really day to day. There's not a lot of distraction, unless they have a lot of unsatisfied needs. So missionaries, like I say, are our frontline workers fighting in the enemy's territory. They sacrifice a lot, which I told Hwa Chuan, why you always say missionary need to sacrifice a lot. No wonder no one wants to go. Because I always feel it's a blessing to be able to work that closely to God and give your whole life to God, because the blessing starts there. Because, you know, I for one gave 40 years of my life to the banking industry. Is that very great? Maybe you have monetary returns, but is that satisfying? But like I say, it doesn't mean that you need to be in the missionary field to feel God. But at marketplace, you also can be a missionary. So, but if you are distracted by your work every day, then you are a bit far away. So missionary did not take a part in your life. So, but I think maybe if you go to the underdeveloped world, the developing world, then there's more hardship because you are born in a developed world. You are born in such a rich country. So it becomes hardship for you to go there. So all these missionaries need our constant care and support. And try attaching yourself to a missionary. Then you will know. Then you will know their life. Then you can feel for them and be more concerned. But if you just stand out and say, "Oh, I take a name and I pray," you won't feel anything. You won't feel much. So you need to adopt. And then if you are in constant communication, then you can feel it better. And then you can concern better. You can pray better. This is a concluding notes. This one I took from the book Task Unfinished by Michael Griffiths. The local church needs to exercise oversight overall to ensure everything that can be done is being done and nothing left undone. And to keep the channels of communications open so that the whole church can have a sense of participation in the trials, troubles, and triumphs of their missionaries. So, to be able to do this, the church needs to be really seriously try their best. Meaning, whatever you can do, you do it. So, I know in the church sometimes there's also bureaucracy, there's also rules that hinder, but we need to know that this is God's kingdom, and the church exists for God as well as for people to know God's word. All right, we shall not take up too much of time. I think we start at 2:15, right?
Yeah.
So now we didn't go over because of time. So please note this important announcement. No lesson next week, but the lesson will assume on 28th of May, 10:30 to 12 at the music hall. The speaker is Dr. Chi. And we will be talking about mission ethics. So this is the last one. Please come and listen. Dr. Chi is a missionary in Taiwan for 25 years. So she has a lot of experience to share with you guys. She's a very black and white person. That's why we choose her to do ethics. Is ethics black or white? Is ethics black or white? So she is a very correct is correct, wrong is wrong. So we will hear from her what's the ethics in mission. So if you go to Batam without a legal visa, you put $50 and then you get your passport chop, you go in, the 3 months, is that ethical? But if you can't go, the people there cannot listen. No? So is that ethical? Is that ethical? So we have a lot of this kind of stuff going on. When I was in a bank in China, when we started to get a license there, we sent people there, and then I told this guy, "Hey John, you bribe them, you give them money." Then he said, "That's why, Ross, you are not sent there." You think that way. It is not bribery. It's the way of business. This is the way to enter. If not, you will never enter this country. You will never have a license in this country. I was only sent on the second batch, where I go in and impart skill set And all I did is to sign a 24-letter contract saying that I will not divulge anything about China. So is that illegal? So I said, that is not illegal. Then they say, no, bros, you're wrong. You just don't know how to do business. So what is illegal? So please come and listen. Enough of self-bullying. Okay. So we come to an end. We really want to thank Reverend Ong. And we have Shannon, the chairman of the Missions Comm. Thank you.
We want to thank our partners that we can have closer relationship.
Reverend, our missionary will give us a closing prayer.
Oh, closing prayer.
好，我们祷告，你得力的。
天父上帝，我们来到你的面前，我们要献上感恩。在这段的日子当中，你让我们能够借着我们在宣教的这个教育课程里面，我们能够对宣教有更多的认识。为着今天我们在下午聚集的时候，我们听取了关于宣教关怀的各个方面，我们也看到了教会关于怎么样的来遴选这个宣教士的过程。我们恳求主帮助我们，不单是听见，更是叫我们能够实在的把这些所听见的放在心里。不单单是叫我们的教会能够把宣教关怀的这样的一个章程写下来，更是叫我们能够全心全意的去落实这样一个宣教关怀。也是不单是我们差出去的宣教士，叫我们在那里在服侍的过程当中，能够因着教会的关怀，能够更加有力的来服侍，叫他们能够更长久的来服侍，叫他们在服侍的过程当中，他的服侍是能够有喜乐的，也是他们的服侍能够带来果效。为着每一位我们交在主手上，叫我们不但听见，也叫我们能够把我们所听见的告诉我们周围的人，让我们的教会能够每一位，哪怕他们没有来到我们当中，也同样能够听见今天我们所领受的信息。为着我们散去的时间，我们也继续的交托主，叫我们离开这里之后，叫这样的一个所学习的东西没有从我们的生命里面离开。我们为着每一位交托，这样祷告奉主耶稣基督的。
Okay, thank you for coming.